There are a lot of talks out there. So, how do you know when someone is genuinely walking the talk? Today, I will share with you a brilliant example. I'm talking to one of our longest standing partners. And to be more precise, our two organizations have worked together for more than 30 years. Beyond the impressive number, it is a testament to the business community to our mission. So I'm delighted to welcome Grant Carson, who is the head of the cluster of Turkey, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and head of non-presence countries and consumer banking franchise head in MEA region at Citi. You can definitely say that he is walking a lot. Hello, Grant. How
Hey,
are
so
you?
how are you? I'm very good, thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us
My
today.
pleasure.
As you know, our series of Walk the Talk wants to find those individuals who, yes, are making nice talks out there, but do they have a real commitment to the next generation? And let's see if you really are one of them. So you're sitting on the board of JEA Europe. What is your personal experience with JEA Europe?
Well, I've been on the board, I guess, 3.5 years now, but my experience with JA Europe probably started when I was the CEO of our Greek franchise back in 2011. And that was during the Greek sovereign crisis and Brexit, things like that. And actually, despite what was happening, we found that being more involved and getting closer together was actually the right thing to do. You know, Greece at the time had a very, and still does have, significant problem with youth unemployment given the impacts of the crisis. And so we spent a lot of time with JA in Greece working through programs. We even sponsored a study in conjunction with the Ministry of Labor to look at what could be done to help facilitate, the youth unemployed in Greece going forward. And so, I guess my association with the firm has been, since then, really. So it's a decade now, and then I've had the privilege to serve on the board for the last 3.5 years.
So, granted, people think that the people at the board are only dealing with the strategic issues, with the big picture. But in addition to that, we are also very involved on the ground. And I understand you recently met with JA students who created their new company.
Yeah, so last year I did a virtual visit to Turkey, because COVID prevented. It's quite strange for me, actually. I usually spend my life on a plane, and for the last 18 months, I've been sitting here in my office. But so I had a virtual visit to Turkey, and we met with two companies there, Tensopathy and DroneV. Both, I think, placed in the Company of the Year awards in 2019 and 2020. Um, a couple of things that were really interesting to me. One is both of the ideas and innovations that they'd come up with were not things that I'd even considered were issues. And I think this is, part of the joy or the excitement of what we can do is, there's so many things, and the job market is changing so rapidly that I think there are jobs that people will be doing in 10 years from now that don't exist today, but they are being developed and invented, by the youth. But these two companies, and Tensopathy, have developed a system for chemotherapy patients, because something I didn't know, but apparently numbness of the fingertips and sensory deprivation, touch, things like that, is fairly common as a result of chemotherapy. And so they've developed a system to kind of give people their sense of touch and feel back, which is, it's amazing. And it's incredible, because if you think about it, I think it shows you how thinking is changing around what people need, what clients need, what companies should be providing. And the other company, DroneV, was a, I guess, a multi-purpose drone multi-industry, sort of a modular plug and play, so you could use it to map out your fields if you were a farmer, but then you could also put in another module and you could actually plant the seeds, and it would go wherever you've done the mapping before. And again, it's always amazing to me, because I just wonder how people come up with these ideas, because it's something I feel I'm deficient in. Or if I did think of it, I think, I can't see a use for that, so I'll just move on. So with both of them, I was super, super impressed just with the quality and the level of the innovation.
Amazing. A big societal impact. Now, Grant, in 3 words, could you say what you took away from this meeting with the students? What are the 3 words that you would choose from the meetings with the students?
I think for me, it was amazement, hope, and probably humility. And because I was really amazed at the solutions, that thought about. And it gave me a lot of hope that there is that kind of, I guess, innovative, creative thinking and broad-minded approach to stuff, along with, as you say, the need to better your entire environment, not just make something that's going to make you money. And then the humility, because really I look at that stuff and I'm just so impressed, and I don't know that it's within me to be that entrepreneurial, have that kind of creative spark. And so I'm always super impressed when I see it.
Well, you also say you are humble in that, because we know that our young people really look for role models. And this is why we are having this series called really Walking the Talk. And now, through interaction like you had, we offer young people role models that they can look up to. They can hear stories about how one can build its own career or become an entrepreneur. And it is very important for young people to have that positive role model, especially those days. Now, have you ever had a mentor, and what would take away from your interaction if you had any mentor, someone who inspired you?
All the time. It's something actually I think that became apparent to me very early on in my career, that you need help, and it's okay to need help. When you start out in your career, if I look back on my career, I think you go through phases, and when you first start, it's all about drive and energy, and then maybe you get your first promotion or you start managing people, and then you have this feeling that, oh, I'm the manager now, so now I need to know all the answers, I need to tell everybody what to do all the time. And it's probably one of the biggest derailers out there, because it's impossible for you to know at that stage in your career. But you put that judgment on yourself, or you impose, perhaps other people are thinking about me, in this way. And I was fortunate that I figured out quite early on in my career, it's okay. It's okay not to know. It's okay to say, I don't understand this. I need help. Or I'm thinking about something, but I'm not sure. Can I talk to you about this? Give me the benefit of your experience, or just a different viewpoint. And so, I think it's something everyone should do. And it doesn't even have to be a formal mentor-mentee relationship. I think you can have that. You can also just have partners that you perhaps in all levels of your organization, senior to you, junior to you, same, that you can go and talk to, and you can be yourself and say, this is what's on my mind, this is what I'm thinking about, what do you think? And the thing I would say, though, is I've been fortunate in that sometimes I've had mentors given to me by the organization or approach me, but I've also approached a lot myself. And I think, the more proactive you are about that, the more you get out of these types of processes. And you need to think about the relationship in terms of not only what are you going to get out of it, but what can you give back to the mentor, and we've started doing at City like reverse mentoring programs, because the truth is, like I was saying, it doesn't mean because you're a senior and you've been in the company 20 years that you know everything or that you have all the answers. And in fact, what you want to do is you want to create an environment and a framework that allows ideas to surface and bubble and have people talk about. And so what we've started doing is pairing it in the reverse, going to, millennials and saying, okay, teach me what it's like for you. Help me understand how you perceive what's going on and where things are. And I think that to me is the essence of that whole thing. It's just about continually developing and challenging yourself, or having someone to express your frustration to in a safe environment. You can say to you, you know what, I think you're overreacting. I don't think that's as big a deal as you think it is. Or yes, you're right, but this happened to me 5 years ago, and this is what I did. So I think it's a really, really crucial thing, both formally and informally.
But Brent, I have to thank you also for being always available as board member of JA Europe. I know that me myself, in the mid of my career now, I can pick up the phone, call you up, ask for advice. It's a real commitment. But I also like this idea of the reverse mentoring, because it creates, as you say, much stronger relations, an environment where bubbles, where these ideas can come up. And as we got closer to the end of the school year, we are approaching the European final of our flagship program, the company program. The best European mini companies will compete for the title of the company of the year, as well as the awards such as the City Foundation Client Focus Award. Now, what are the three things students need to have in mind, or students who are watching our Walk the Talks when competing for the City Foundation Client Focus Award?
So, interestingly, I think the very first thing is to not worry about winning the award. would be the it may sound a bit counterintuitive, but to me, and frankly, it's how I see business. Actually, I think results, financial performance, awards, they're functional. They're the outcome of doing things. They're not and shouldn't be, necessarily the goal. So I think the first thing is, we talked about it earlier, is what is the solution that you're bringing? Can you articulate what the problem is? What's the scope of it? And what is the solution? And how innovative and creative is that solution? How easily can you make it a reality? I think then, we also talked about, going beyond just yourself or your company. It's well, how is this going to add to the ecosystem? How is this going to add to the community that I live and work in, or that my company is a part of? There's this concept in technology of democratizing technological innovation, and that's where you get the best results, right? So it's kind of the Elon Musk, here's my patents, here's how we built this, here's the algorithm, go with it, see what you can do. And I think being open to that kind of collaborative thinking and approach, and then, building on that, looking at what else could this do? Who else could benefit from this? What if we coupled with, X who's doing Y, would this enhance the overall impact of this? And those, I think, are the things that really will help you stand apart and in the competition framework be successful. But I think it's fundamentally what's the real impact we're going to make here.
And we had a lot of impact over the past 30 years when with the support of the City Foundation. And over the last 30 years, how has the City Foundation seen the issue of work readiness, of youth entrepreneurship evolving?
I think it's changed quite dramatically. I think we did a survey a couple of years ago, through all of our networks, and 69-70% of people, or of the youth, I should say, want to work for themselves. They want to start their own companies. But in truth, not everyone is a Mark Zuckerberg or an Elon Musk, and it's actually incredibly difficult to, there is a lot of hard work that has to happen in the background. Everyone sees these super successful people, and to them it appears like it happened yesterday. They had an idea, they wrote some code quickly, and bang, off, massive success, and away they go. But it's a huge journey, that people go on. And I think the skills to do that are not necessarily things that you learn in school or in university, frankly speaking. If I think about university education, it's still modeled on a 600-year-old kind of guild apprenticeship, learn everything rote so that you can repeat it, but whether you can actually apply it or not, becomes a different thing. And so I think teaching people practical skills around how to develop ideas and how to work through ideas, how to get funding, and like I said, and also to not think about the world as it is today, but the world as it will be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time. And I have 2 young children, and they watch far more YouTube than I would like them to. But in watching them watch this, I've sort of looked at a couple of things, and there is a YouTube channel run by a 9-year-old boy who makes $25 million a year. So now, it makes me wish that I'd started my own kids' YouTube channel way back when. But if you had said that to, I don't know, anyone I know or that I work with 5 years ago, there will be a 9-year-old kid who has a channel that shows them, playing with toys basically, but that they will make $25 million a year, we would have all laughed. And I think it's that ability to think about that stuff and understand the impact and why it's going to work, and what, not necessarily problem, but what solution, what benefit is it going to provide, and then to be a little bit brave as well. I again, thinking about myself, if I'd come up with that idea, or I'd come up with idea for, I don't know, WhatsApp or something, I would have talked myself out of it, because I would have said, but I have text on my phone. What I need another thing to go and do, right? And so I think it's that also being brave and thinking about how I can make this work, as opposed to rather why this wouldn't work.
I would have also not imagined probably that kind of thing. It's good. I mean, you have 2 kids. I have 2 kids as well. So I think we have a lot to learn also as fathers in this new environment. Absolutely. And there is a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done, and more than ever today, I feel that the mission of JA Europe, which you serve as a board member, it's really critical. I'm sure you have heard and read a lot about the impact of the pandemic on young people. Many are now talking about a lost generation, the COVID generation, the generation of the unemployed. But for us at JA Europe, we thrive to create the next generation of entrepreneurs and of employees. And for us, those are really the tomorrow's heroes. So what about you, Grant? What is your dream for the next organization, for our tomorrow's heroes? And how can we help as an organization to make this dream come true?
Well, let me just touch on the pandemic piece and on the COVID piece. And look, I think there's no doubt, right? This has, for any of us in living memory, it's the first time something has globally impacted on us. And I saw it, with certainly my daughter, she loved going to school, and then suddenly she couldn't go to school, and it was difficult for her. But she's fortunate, right? Because we have a nice house, we have a computer, we have the internet, so she could keep up, and she could do the things that she needed to do. And I think we absolutely have to recognize that not everyone, although this was a global pandemic experienced by everybody, not everyone experienced this in the same way. And I think there's certainly going to be challenges that result from this. But at the same time, I think it's also forced the world to see certain truths. And the one that strikes me in the business context was, 2 years ago when you talked about working from home, managers were like, oh, no, because I know Salvatore, he's going to be watching TV and he's not going to be working, and, I'm never going to be able to get a hold of him. And I think this proved that that's actually not, in fact, it was the inverse, right? People tended to work more from home than they did in the office, which is also not a good thing, because I think that sucked people into this, where your home life and your office life just sort of, blended into one. But, what it showed is that you can operate in these kind of environments, but it just requires you as an organization to be flexible, to have trust in your employees, right? And are there people who sit and watch football all day? Sure. But they are the tiny minority, right? The tiny minority, because most people, I believe, wake up in the morning and they want to do a good job and they want to contribute and they want to do things. And I think it's taught companies that actually you can treat the people who work for you like adults and they will respond like adults. And it's a bit sad it took a global pandemic to do that, but I think it's shown that. I think it's also shown us that we need to be doing so much more around digitization and technological innovation, because it's the one thing that you can overcome physical separation through, certainly in the work environment. I also think it's opened up a lot of different fields for people to help people provide solutions, provide benefits, and things like that. And so I think it's clearly not been a good thing at all, and it's terrible that so many people have suffered through this. But my hope is that we learn the lessons that were forced on us, and that we take them and we move forward in a much better, more positive fashion, with that knowledge in our pockets. When I think about the next generation, and I think about the things we as City should be doing, or J Europe, or in partnership together, it's about providing framework, I guess, for people to be successful. It's about freeing ourselves from the shackles of, this is what our company looks like, this is how we worked for the last 200 years, this is what the kind of job opportunity is. So, again, would I recommend to my kids to do an economics degree? Probably not. I mean, they're quite young, so by the time they get to university, it's still like 9-10 years away, but probably not, right? It's probably not going to have as much relevance as it did even 5 years ago. I would be encouraging them to look outside the sort of old traditional things that have happened, because a lot of that is just going to be done by machines. AI is going to take care of your annual statements and things. And well, you still need accountants, of course you will. You'll still need an advisor and a this and that. But I think anything that moves towards more of advisory input is where the future opportunities are going to lie. And I think we need to be providing tools and experiences that can help people develop that, create that framework for them to step outside the box and be successful failures. That it's okay to do something and for it not to work, as long as you move on and try the next thing. And that's really what I think. We have a lot of programs. We have, I think it's across City, and we're a big organization. We have like 20,000 mentorship programs and things like that are all operational. But I really fundamentally think we need to change the way we approach things. And not just us, I mean organizations in general. and then we will go through this evolution. I guess this is for us it's the equivalent of, the Renaissance or the Industrial Revolution just of our time. It happens to be the digital and social equality revolution, I think, are the two main forces that are driving now. Or the social inequality, I should say. And I think putting those two things together and trying to solve those problems and come up with solutions is going to be where the future lies.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing the kind of people are really walking the talk? They are able even to identify the current situation, comparing it to the Industrial Revolution and the change of that, the renaissance of the change of that. So in such a big picture, but then going deeper and how this is going to affect the individual choices of young people, whether they want to start their company, what are the skills that they need to learn, what is their path of studies, what is the niche market in which they would like to create their company with, what are the skills that are more required when getting into a job. Amazing to have Grant Carson with us today. So Grant, any final words, any final suggestion to the young people who are watching, to those who will compete for the CD Foundation Signature Award this year?
Look, I think while everything is changing, there are probably a couple of things that will remain constant, throughout all of our lives. The first thing is, I often get asked this question here: what's the most important leadership principle? And I'm not so sure that there's one, but for me, certainly right up at the top is, resilience and persistence. And I think that's something, no matter what you're doing, whether you're in your own business, whether you're working in a big company, whether you're working in a small company, it doesn't really matter. But the ability to get back up off the mat when you get knocked down, to try something and fail and start again, is really, really critical. And it's where you see people who genuinely achieve, is that they have that inherent resilience. It's not that they don't get upset or disheartened by not being successful, but they have the ability to have that moment, deal with it, and then move on. And I think that, to me, is the thing that's required. And then I think adding to that is, what's the output of what I'm doing? What's that impact going to be? Because I think what we're seeing is that the more inclusive your thinking is, and the more collaborative your approach, the more successful your company is, you are, whatever. And so that would be, I guess, my advice: be persistent, but be collaborative and inclusive.
Be resilient, be persistent, be collaborative, be inclusive as much as you can. As Grant Carson does, as Grant has shown to all of us. Thank you so much, Grant. You're really walking the talk. Now we can definitely tell you're really walking the talk. Thank you so much for all the support you're providing us. Thank you so much to the CD Foundation for being such a long-standing partner and supporter of JA in Europe.
My pleasure, Sal. Thank you very much.
It has been a great pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.